In the mid-7th century, a battle-hardened Muslim army led by commander Amr bin al-As arrived at the gates of Roman-occupied Egypt. For the soldiers standing in the desert dust, this was the direct fulfillment of a prophecy made by Prophet Muhammad years earlier, that they would one day open Egypt. But to understand the true weight of what they were about to conquer, we have to rewind 5,000 years. In the ancient world, water functioned as the primary currency of power. The Nile River provided the largest reserve of fresh water on the planet. This artery cutting through the arid landscape acted like a magnet, drawing nomadic populations from across the world to settle on its banks, creating a geographic monopoly. With so many people concentrated in one fertile valley, a ruler named King Narmer capitalized on the density. He united the territory and established history's first centralized kingdom, a fact recorded directly on these ancient stone palettes. Controlling the ancient world's most vital resource generated staggering wealth. Egypt became the first global superpower, and with that immense power came an extreme level of human arrogance. Fueled by a total economic monopoly, the rulers of Egypt decided that the title of king was too small. They claimed the status of living gods on earth, adopting the title of pharaoh. To maintain control over their wealthy populace, these rulers engineered a theological trap. They taught the citizens that the only possible path to heaven was to live in total, unwavering servitude to the pharaoh. But there was a critical vulnerability in this belief system. According to their own religion, a pharaoh's divinity only lasted as long as his physical body survived completely intact after death. This physical requirement for eternal godhood triggered a bizarre state obsession. The empire began prioritizing the dead over governing the living. The pharaohs funneled the state's wealth into medical sciences designed solely to protect their physical forms, creating the concept of mummies. The moment a ruler died, surgeons drained their blood and pulled the brain out through the nasal cavity with an iron hook, before harvesting all the internal organs except for the heart. The hollowed-out corpse was submerged in a specialized salt bath for 40 days, then packed tight with desert sand so the skin would maintain its human shape. Finally, the body was wrapped in linen and sealed inside an elaborate sarcophagus alongside massive hoards of gold, jewelry, and food meant to sustain the ruler in the afterlife. A preserved body needed a heavily fortified safe. This sparked a construction race among the pharaohs, each competing to build a larger tomb than the last, culminating in the Great Pyramid, holding the world record for tallest building for 3,500 years. Its mass is even more significant. To equal its weight, you'd stack 12 Burj Khalifas on a scale. These tombs required an immense amount of capital, labor, and engineering. They drained the empire's treasury and crippled the Egyptian economy, trading the financial stability of the state for the vanity of a single corpse. While the economy experienced a brief period of stabilization managed by Prophet Yusuf, the continuous, compulsive spending on these massive tombs eventually pushed the empire right back to the brink of collapse. Desperate to patch the failing economy, a new pharaoh implemented strict, xenophobic policies targeting immigrants, systematically shutting down foreign-owned businesses. This escalated into the enslavement of the Bani Israel. Stripped of all legal rights, they were used as a free labor force for 400 years to sustain the state's endless monumental construction projects. To maintain the expensive illusion of divinity, the state shifted its resources toward a system of forced labor and systemic oppression. The pharaoh's grip on power was eventually shaken by a prophecy. A child born from the enslaved Bani Israel would rise up and destroy his 3,000-year empire. In a fit of paranoia, the pharaoh ordered the execution of all male infants in the slave camps. Yet, in a stark display of irony, the very child destined to end his reign, Prophet Musa, was safely adopted and raised inside the pharaoh's own palace. Years later, Musa returned as a prophet. He walked straight into a direct confrontation with Pharaoh Ramses, demanding the immediate freedom of the Bani Israel. After a series of fierce trials, Ramses finally let them go, only to break his promise and chase the fleeing slaves with his entire army. That decision ended with Ramses and his military completely drowning in the sea. This event broke Egypt's foundational myth by proving to the world that pharaohs were mortal, vulnerable men. The loss of the royal army at the Red Sea left the borders undefended and the royal treasury exhausted. With the pharaoh's image as an invincible god destroyed, Egypt's centralized authority began to unravel, marking the start of a multi-century decline into the Dark Ages. The once untouchable territory became weak and fractured, easily conquered by a succession of new global powers, including the armies of Prophet Suleiman and later Alexander the Great. Eventually, the great Roman Empire swept in, subjugating the population and locking the region down under strict military rule for the next 600 years. Which brings us back to the 7th century. Caliph Umar bin Khattab's Muslim army finally broke the Roman grip. They arrived under the Prophet's instructions to govern with kindness and respect, the ties of kinship with the Egyptian people, a sharp departure from the previous occupation. Today, the massive pyramids still stand as colossal tombstones of a fallen civilization. They serve as a permanent reminder that true longevity belongs to societies that govern the living, not those that worship the dead.